This speech isn't just full of lies, it's a masterpiece of deception. Let's be real. When you have the strongest intelligence network in the world, mistakes don't happen. So forget misinformation. What we have here is disinformation. Lies crafted with purpose. And then there's the real art, the unspoken threats. The kind that don't scream, but whisper. Like a mobster saying, "Beautiful family you got there." No direct threat, but you feel it, don't you? That's the game.
And we also believe that it's important in the coming years for Europe to step up in a big way to provide for its own defense. The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America.
Vance speaks like a father nudging his child toward independence. After 70 years of American soldiers guarding Europe, it's time for the old continent to stand on its own. But here's the catch. He's not setting a deadline, just a warning. The clock is ticking, and he makes it clear. In the coming years, Europe must step up. This is crucial. He's not saying tomorrow, but he's also not saying forever. The US is still here, for now, yet 3 years into the war knocking on its door, Europe still hesitates. Budgets, politics, public opinion, it all slows the process. And then comes the real twist. The biggest threat isn't Russia or China, it's something within. But what is this weakness? Let's find out.
Now, I was struck that a former European commissioner went on television recently and sounded delighted that the Romanian government had just annulled an entire election.
Objection, Your Honor. Mr. Vance claims a former European commissioner sounded delighted about Romania's annulling an election. This is pure speculation. Interpreting someone's tone without evidence is misleading. Sustained. Counsel, stick to verifiable facts. Thank you, Your Honor. Now, about the so-called former European Commissioner. Yes, his name is Thierry Breton, and yes, he was once in office. But why are we even analyzing the words of ex-officials as if they set policy? Do we shape foreign policy based on what Bill Clinton says in 2025? Do we debate international security based on Angela Merkel's interviews? If he's not in power, why does his opinion matter so much? Moreover, labeling someone as delighted over such a grave matter implies they take pleasure in undermining democracy. A serious accusation without concrete proof. This tactic distorts the truth and instills unnecessary distrust among the public. In summary, Mr. Vance's assertions rely on unfounded interpretations and factual inaccuracies, highlighting a deliberate effort to mislead and manipulate.
He warned that if things don't go to plan, the very same thing could happen in Germany too.
Things not going to plan. That's how Mr. Vance frames it, implying that the sinister, undemocratic Europeans have a secret backup plan to rig elections and, if that fails, just cancel them altogether, as he claims happened in Romania. But here's the truth. In a January 9, 2025 interview, former European Commissioner Thierry Breton addressed the annulment of Romania's presidential elections. He stated, and I quote, "We did it in Romania, and we will obviously do it if necessary in Germany." End of quote. Nowhere did he mention a plan. He didn't say according to plan. He said if necessary. That's a huge difference. It means action only if there's a threat, not some secret pre-planned conspiracy. So, Mr. Vance, who exactly is talking about a plan here? Because it wasn't Breton. He was talking about cancelling elections at will. He was referring to defend democracy against external interference. If foreign actors like Russia or China or the US manipulate elections, infiltrate social media or finance certain candidates to destabilize a country, democratic institutions must intervene. Must intervene. That's not a conspiracy, it's basic national security. Isn't that the exact same argument the US government used when it cracked down on TikTok? They feared foreign influence, misinformation, and data breaches that could distort American society from within. If the US takes this threat seriously, why should Europe just sit back and let it happen? Mr. Vance takes the words of an ex-official, twists them, and turns them into a proof of a grand plan, when the actual plan is simple. Free elections, free from foreign interference. So what's the real issue here? Are we against election manipulation, or only when it suits our narrative? The 2016 US presidential election and the UK's Brexit referendum were both tainted by Cambridge Analytica's misuse of Facebook data, allowing targeted political manipulation without user consent. This led to massive scandals, whistleblower revelations, and a $5 billion fine on Facebook, exposing how easily social media can be exploited to influence democratic process.
Now, these cavalier statements are shocking to American ears.
Shocking for American ears? Because, of course, Americans live for democracy, and the mere thought of someone interfering in elections is horrifying. Meanwhile, Mr. Musk openly endorses the AfD on his platform, joins their Congress meetings online, and fuels political discourse in Germany. Mr. Vance himself, while attending his political conference in Munich, chooses to meet not with the Chancellor, but with the leaders of AfD, the party comfortable sitting in Musk's pocket. But I'm guessing this doesn't sound like election interference to Mr. Vance. Now let's take a little trip down memory lane, back to the good old days when the US election interference was done properly, and in secret. Your Honor, may I present Exhibit 1, a short but incomplete list of US interventions in foreign elections and political affairs, through bribery, disinformation, covert operations, assassinates, and other crimes. I must apologize, I lack access to CIA archives, so this only covers what has been publicly exposed. But knowing the efficiency of US intelligence, let's be honest, this list is far from complete. And remember, Mr. Vance accuses Europeans for wanting to influence their own elections. What we are talking about here is America shaping the future of other countries, rewriting their history, controlling their politics, deciding their fate. Shocking for American ears. Wow. Let's roll the list.
The Cold War positioned defenders of democracy against much more tyrannical forces on this continent. And consider the side in that fight that censored dissidents, that closed churches, that canceled elections. Were they the good guys? Certainly not. And thank God they lost the Cold War.
Ah, yes, Mr. Vance. But they're still here. The same evil, destructive forces, doing exactly what they did during the Cold War. Only now, you seem to get along with them just fine.
They lost because they neither valued nor respected all of the extraordinary blessings of liberty. The freedom to surprise, to make mistakes, to invent, to build. As it turns out, you can't mandate innovation or creativity, just as you can't force people what to think, what to feel, or what to believe.
Oh, really, Mr. Vance? That's a lie. Of course you can. You just need the right tools. Disinformation, psychological operations, propaganda. That's what intelligence agencies have been doing for decades. The same CIA-backed operations we just mentioned. And today, you don't even need spies. Media, and especially social media, do the job perfectly. And who controls these platforms? The US and China. Which is why the US is so desperate to eliminate Chinese influence from within its society. Because if they can manipulate minds, it's a national security threat. But if we do it, defending democracy. Similarly, China and Russia block Western social media platforms within their borders to control external influence. China, for instance, has banned platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, enforcing strict censorship and monitoring of domestic social media. Other countries have also imposed bans or restrictions on platforms like TikTok due to security or moral concerns. India implemented an indefinite ban on TikTok in 2020 following border clashes with China. Pakistan has temporarily banned TikTok multiple times since 2020, citing concerns over immoral content. This pattern of restricting social media platforms is evident in various nations aiming to control information flow and external influence. That's why the European Union is fighting to regulate disinformation. But guess who's pushing back? The same US government that used the media to shape elections in the US, the UK, and now Europe. The same covert influence operations that once relied on agents and bribes now run through algorithm-powered persuasion machines. Repeat a lie enough times and it becomes the truth. That's not just propaganda, it's a strategy. Bombard people with the same narrative and they will think, believe, and act accordingly. And speaking of repeating lies, quote, if you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. Joseph Goebbels. Except he never said that. But hey, it sounds like something a Nazi would say, so let's just roll with it. Who cares about the truth?
And unfortunately, when I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners. I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warned citizens.
And just when you think he's done, he reinforces the same idea. Suddenly, European commissioners, democratically appointed officials, become commissars. A tiny change in pronunciation, but a massive shift in meaning. Because commissars doesn't make you think of democracy. It makes you think of the Soviet secret police, the NKVD, the KGB, the people who ran Stalin's purges, sent dissidents to the Gulag, and ruled with terror. So what's the message here? Not that Putin's Russia, the country that actually poisoning and jailing opposition leaders, is the new dictatorship. No. According to Mr. Vance, the real threat to democracy is Brussels. Funny how Mr. Vance, Mr. Musk, and Mr. Trump never seem to use this language when talking about Russia. No commissars there, no tyranny, no dictatorship. Just strong leadership and traditional values.
In his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief. And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. After British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution.
Mr. Vance pulls a classic trick of association. First, he describes the horror of the Cold War dictatorships. Censorship, shutting down churches, cancelling elections. Then, in the very next sentence, he talks about modern-day Europe's judicial issues. See the trick? He never directly says, Europe today is just like the USSR, but putting them side by side, he plants the idea without having to prove it. Imagine I say, back in the day, criminals used to rob banks and threaten people at gunpoint. Now let's talk about the CEO of your bank. Did I say your bank CEO is a criminal? No. But did I make you think it? Probably. That's what Mr. Vance is doing here. Smuggling an idea into your head without actually saying it. Clever, right? But also completely dishonest. Mr. Vance lists a handful of cases from different European countries and expects us to believe this proves the entire European justice system is broken. But here's the trick. One case from Belgium, one from Germany, one from Sweden, and one from the UK. And suddenly, according to Mr. Vance, all European is crumbling under tyranny. Imagine I say, a man was wrongfully convicted in Texas, another in Florida, and one more in California. Clearly, the entire US justice system is corrupt. Would that be a fair conclusion? Of course not. Judicial errors happen everywhere, even in the best legal systems. And they are corrected through appeals, independent courts, and democratic oversight. Not through random American politicians picking cases that fit their narrative. What Vance is doing is not evidence, it's storytelling. A well-crafted illusion that turns a few legal controversies into proof of a European dictatorship. Now let's move on to the next big lie. According to Mr. Vance, Adam Smith Connor was arrested simply for praying silently near an abortion clinic. Sounds terrifying, right? But it's not true. He wasn't arrested for praying. He was arrested for violating a British Public Spaces Protection Order. The police spoke with him for over an hour and 40 minutes before taking action. He was not peacefully standing there. He was participating in a coordinated effort to intimidate women seeking medical care. And there's the best part. I could pray right now. You could pray right now. No one is getting arrested because praying isn't illegal. If someone robs a bank and prays because he's scared and says in court, Your Honor, I was arrested for praying, would anyone believe them? No. But Mr. Vance expects us to believe this version of events without question. And let's talk about that 200-meter buffer zone law. Why does it exist? Because for decades, women seeking abortions have been harassed, insulted, and shamed by groups who believe they have the right to control other people's choices. And what happens when a 16-year-old girl or a single mother walks past people screaming at her that she's a sinner? That's not free speech, that's coercion and intimidation. Funny thing, if a woman in Europe chooses to have a child, she's actually supported, financially and socially. Meanwhile, in some US states, she's forced to give birth, yet gets little to no help afterward. Romanian mothers enjoy 18 weeks of maternity leave with 85% of their salary, plus up to 2 years of paid parental leave. In Germany, mothers get 14 weeks at full pay, followed by up to 3 years of parental leave with financial support. I guess this sounds like a dream for an American mother. What are the conditions in the US, ladies? Drop your comments below. Now, dear viewers, I would appreciate if you like this video, comment below, because unlike Mr. Vance, I actually believe in free speech. and subscribe if you like the content. It really helps me a lot. Thank you. Look, Mr. Vance, an Apple laptop. Great product. Expensive, but top quality. Here's an idea. Instead of talking nonsense in Munich, why not have a word with your billionaire friends about making this in the US? Oh wait, of course not. Why pay decent wages when you can pay peanuts? What about Germany? Come and produce them here. No. Salaries and unions? God forbid. Sure, it might cost 10% more, but guess what? We'd gladly pay it. The real issue is that your billionaire buddies would have to settle for slightly smaller yachts, and we can't have that, can we? Better to outsource everything, pay workers $100 a month, and exploit Chinese labor instead. You all moved your factories, hoarded trillions, and killed American jobs, while we, Americans and Europeans, foot the bill for these overpriced gadgets. How do I know they're overpriced? Because China is already making them cheaper. And in 5 to 10 years, they won't be just cheaper. They'll be better.
Are you finished, Mr. Slade?
No, I'm just getting warmed up.
In the 40s, America produced 50% of the world's goods. 50%. Today, that number has dwindled to a fraction of its former glory. And back then, Mr. Vance, you were rich. The richest nation on God's earth, with the smallest gap between rich and poor. Every American was wealthier than any other working man on this planet. No billionaires fooling around with the government, just a strong middle class, a booming industry, and total control, from technology to everyday goods. You landed on the moon, and the whole world watched in awe. Hollywood shaped our imagination, and the American dream felt real. And now, the Chinese played it smart. They learned to produce everything: computers, cars, satellites, high-tech weapons. And suddenly, they're the bad guys because they mastered the game you taught them. Who handed them the keys to the kingdom, Mr. Vance? You. Your own greed. If you hadn't outsourced everything to chase profits, they'd still be planting rice and chopping wood. But no, you built their empire to feed your own. And how you respond to that? You slap 10% tariffs on China and 20% on Canada. Because, well, screw you, Canada. The nicest people on earth, your loyal allies in every war, and you tax them more than your supposed enemy. You lie, you manipulate, you win elections against an old man. Kamala came too late to change anything, carrying the burden of a weak party, propped up by the votes of desperate, struggling people for whom every day is a fight for survival. Because not everyone inherits real estate empires or emerald mines in South Africa. And from the peak of your great victory, what do, Mr. Vance? You betray your allies, cozy up with your adversaries, and then come to Europe to preach democracy? Spare us the lecture, Mr. Vance. This is just part 1, folks, and trust me, there's plenty more to unpack. I invite you to watch the second part as well, because, in my opinion, it only gets better from here.